The morning of June 10th, 2025, began like any other Tuesday in the historic city of Graz, Austria. Students at the Burg Dreier Schützengasse Secondary School were settling into their classes, honestly just going about their routines, completely unaware that their lives were about to be irrevocably altered. At approximately 9:55 in the morning, the familiar sounds of a school day were shattered by the deafening crack of gunfire. A lone gunman, later identified as a former student, had initiated an attack that would become the deadliest school shooting in the nation's modern history. The chaos that erupted inside the school building marked the beginning of a profound national tragedy, one that would leave deep scars on the community and the country as a whole. The perpetrator of this horrific act was Arthur A., a 21-year-old who had previously attended the very school he targeted. He arrived at the campus armed with 2 legally owned firearms, a powerful shotgun and a Glock semi-automatic pistol. Without any prior criminal record, he had been able to acquire these weapons through Austria's established legal channels. His attack was swift and brutal, catching students and teachers completely by surprise. The suddenness of the violence left little time for anyone to react or seek safety, turning a place of learning and growth into a scene of terror and devastating loss in a matter of minutes. Arthur A. moved methodically through the school, his actions spreading panic and despair. He fired approximately 40 shots, targeting individuals in 2 separate classrooms and along the corridors. The attack was not confined to the interior of the building. Shots were also fired outside, creating a wider zone of danger and confusion. The sounds of the rampage echoed through the school as students and staff scrambled for cover, hiding under desks and in closets, desperately hoping to survive. The assault concluded when the shooter retreated into a school lavatory, where he ultimately took his own life, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable carnage. The human cost of the attack was staggering and heartbreaking. A total of 11 people lost their lives, a number that includes the shooter himself. Among the 10 innocent victims were 8 students, their futures stolen in an instant, and 1 dedicated teacher who died protecting them. The victims were a mix of boys and girls, with some hailing from families with Bosnian heritage, reflecting the diverse fabric of the Graz community. In addition to the fatalities, at least 12 other people sustained injuries, some of them life-threatening. The wounded were rushed to local hospitals, where medical teams worked tirelessly to save them, while a city tried to comprehend the scale of its loss. The response from emergency services was remarkably swift, yet the tragedy had unfolded too quickly to prevent the loss of life. The first calls for help reached authorities just as the attack began, and police and paramedics were dispatched immediately. The first responders arrived on the scene at 10:06 in the morning, just 11 minutes after the shooting started. Within 17 minutes of their arrival, the area was secured, a testament to their training and courage under extreme pressure. The operation was massive in scale, involving around 300 police officers, including highly trained special forces units, and 160 paramedics who set up an emergency triage unit near the school to treat the wounded. As news of the shooting spread, a wave of shock and grief washed over Austria. The federal government in Vienna responded by declaring 3 days of national mourning. Across the country, flags on public buildings were lowered to half-mast as a symbol of collective sorrow. A nationwide minute of silence was observed, allowing Austrians from all walks of life to pause and reflect on the innocent lives that had been so violently taken. Chancellor Christian Stocker addressed the nation, his words heavy with emotion, describing the attack as a national tragedy that had pierced the heart of the country and shaken its sense of security. The local community in Graz, though devastated, rallied together to support one another through the darkness. In the hours and days following the attack, spontaneous candlelight vigils were organized outside the school and in the city center, drawing thousands of residents who came to pay their respects and share in their collective grief. Blood drives were quickly established to help the numerous victims being treated in hospitals. Crisis counselors and mental health professionals volunteered their time, offering support to the survivors, the families of the victims, and the shell-shocked students and staff who witnessed the horror firsthand. These acts of solidarity provided a small measure of comfort in an overwhelmingly painful time. The tragedy in Graz also resonated deeply beyond Austria's borders. prompting an outpouring of international sympathy and support. Leaders from across the European Union and neighboring countries were quick to express their condolences, standing in solidarity with the Austrian people. They condemned the senseless act of violence and offered their support in any way they could. This global response highlighted the shared vulnerability to such attacks and reinforced the sense of a connected European community bound by common values and shared grief. The messages of support from abroad served as a reminder that Graz was not alone in its sorrow. In the aftermath of the shooting, investigators worked tirelessly to understand what could have driven a young man to commit such a heinous act. The search for a motive led them to the shooter's home, where they made several crucial discoveries. Among his belongings, they found a farewell letter. In this final communication, Artur A. wrote about his feelings of being a victim, specifically mentioning that he had been subjected to bullying. This note offered the first significant clue into his tormented state of mind, suggesting that long-simmering grievances and a profound sense of persecution may have fueled his rage and desire for revenge against the institution he once attended. The investigation also revealed that the attack was not a spontaneous act of violence, but a premeditated and carefully planned event. Chillingly, just before he left for the school, Artur A. sent a video message to his mother. In the video, he clearly indicated his violent intentions, leaving no doubt about what he was about to do. His mother, horrified by the message, immediately contacted the police. The call was logged 24 minutes before the first shots were fired. But tragically, it was not enough time for law enforcement to locate the shooter and intervene before he reached the school and began his deadly assault. Further searches of the shooter's residence uncovered more evidence of his dark preparations. Authorities discovered a makeshift bomb, indicating that Artur A. may have intended to cause even greater destruction and loss of life. The presence of this device underscored the depth of his planning and his commitment to inflicting maximum harm. The combination of the farewell letter, the video message, and the explosive device painted a disturbing picture of a deeply troubled individual who had spent considerable time plotting his attack. The discoveries left the community and the nation grappling with the terrifying reality of his calculated cruelty. Despite these findings, a complete and definitive motive remains elusive, leaving many questions unanswered. While the farewell letter pointed to bullying as a potential factor, authorities have been cautious about identifying it as the sole cause. Such complex acts of violence are often the result of a confluence of factors, including mental health issues, social isolation, and access to lethal weapons. The investigation continues as authorities delve deeper into the shooter's personal history, online activities, and social interactions, hoping to piece together a clearer understanding of the path that led him from a former student to a mass murderer. The Graz school shooting has forced Austria to confront uncomfortable questions about its national identity and sense of safety. Historically, the country has been considered one of the safest in Europe, with violent crime rates, particularly mass shootings, being exceptionally rare. This attack shattered that perception overnight. It stands as the deadliest school shooting in Austria's modern history, far surpassing any previous incident in its scale and brutality. The event has become a dark landmark in the nation's timeline, forcing a painful re-evaluation of its societal vulnerabilities and prompting a widespread debate about how to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. In response to the attack, the Austrian government has taken immediate steps to enhance security measures. Chancellor Christian Stocker announced a comprehensive review of safety protocols in schools across the country. This includes proposals for increased police presence near educational institutions, improved emergency communication systems, and enhanced training for teachers and staff on how to respond to active shooter situations. The government's swift action reflects a national determination to learn from the tragedy and implement practical changes aimed at protecting its youngest and most vulnerable citizens from future acts of violence, restoring a sense of security that has been deeply shaken. The shooting has also ignited a fierce and emotional debate over Austria's gun laws. Compared to many other European nations, Austria has relatively permissive firearm regulations, with an estimated 30 civilian-owned guns for every 100 people in 2017. The fact that Artur A. legally acquired the shotgun and pistol he used in the attack has become a central point of contention. Advocacy groups, politicians, and concerned citizens are now calling for stricter controls, including more thorough background checks, psychological evaluations for gun license applicants, and potential bans on certain types of semi-automatic weapons. This debate places the traditional rights of gun owners against the urgent demand for greater public safety. Ultimately, the Graz tragedy serves as a somber turning point for Austria. It has not only exposed vulnerabilities in school security and gun legislation, but has also drawn parallels to similar recent events in other European countries, such as Serbia and the Czech Republic, which also prompted significant policy changes. As the nation continues to mourn and heal, it finds itself at a critical crossroads. The path forward will require a delicate balance between honoring the memory of the victims, supporting the survivors, and engaging in a difficult but necessary national conversation about the fundamental changes needed to safeguard its future. The legacy of this dark day will be measured by the country's collective resolve to ensure such horror is never repeated.